Ever find yourself procrastinating on something, knowing it's important but just can't seem to get started? Maybe it's homework, cleaning your room, or even working out. It's that feeling of being overwhelmed before you even begin, right? You stare at your to-do list, and it feels like a mountain. But what if I told you there's a simple trick, a game-changing rule that could help you overcome that feeling? It's called the 5-minute rule. I know, it sounds simple, almost too simple to be true. But stick with me for the next few minutes, and I'll explain how this little hack can completely change the way you get things done, beat procrastination, and start achieving your goals one step at a time. Trust me, it works. What is the 5-minute rule? So, let's break it down. The 5-minute rule is incredibly straightforward. It's a technique where you commit to doing something for just 5 minutes. Yup, only 5 minutes. You're not forcing yourself to finish an entire project or goal. You're just committing to the first 5 minutes of it. This may sound like a tiny amount of time, but here's the catch. Those first 5 minutes are often the hardest part. Once you get started, it becomes easier. You'll be surprised how much momentum you build just by committing to that tiny chunk of time. Think about it. Have you ever told yourself you'll start studying or doing a task tomorrow, only for tomorrow to become next week, then next month? The 5-minute rule stops that cycle. By focusing only on those first 5 minutes, you trick your brain into getting started without the pressure of needing to do everything at once. Why does it work? Let's talk about why this actually works. Our brains hate feeling overwhelmed. When a task feels too big or boring, we shut down. But if we shrink the task into a small, manageable chunk like 5 minutes, our brain doesn't freak out. We're more likely to jump in because it feels less daunting. And here's the kicker. Once you start, you're in motion. You've broken the inertia. Psychologically, it's way easier to keep going once you've started, even if it's just for a little while. Think about getting up early for school. The hardest part is dragging yourself out of bed. Once you're up, it's smooth sailing, right? Let's apply this to studying. Instead of thinking, I need to study for 2 hours, think, I'm going to study for 5 minutes. By the time 5 minutes are up, you'll likely find yourself wanting to keep going. You'll get into that flow, and it won't feel as bad as you thought it would. A real-world example. Let me share a real-world example with you. Let's say you're a teen who's been avoiding a project that's due in a week. The thought of working on it feels so stressful. You know you should start, but you keep putting it off. Sound familiar? Now, instead of thinking about the entire project, break it into small chunks. Tell yourself, I'll just spend 5 minutes researching the topic. That's all. You sit down with your laptop or notebook, and 5 minutes later, guess what happens? You've done the research, and you feel a little more confident. You didn't have to force yourself to sit there for hours, you just got started. Once you've spent those 5 minutes, you're likely to keep going. 5 minutes might turn into 10 or 20, and before you know it, you've made serious progress. But even if you don't continue, those 5 minutes count. They break the cycle of procrastination and get you moving. It's a mindset shift. The 5-minute rule isn't just a time management hack, it's a mindset shift. It's about understanding that you don't have to conquer everything at once. In fact, you can't conquer everything at once. Instead, focus on getting started and the rest will follow. As a teen, you're probably balancing school, social life, family expectations, hobbies, and maybe even part-time work. It's a lot. And with everything happening at once, it can feel like there's no time for your own goals or self-improvement. But with the 5-minute rule, you create space for growth. Even in the busiest days, you start with 5 minutes, and over time, those small moments add up. It's also about changing your relationship with failure. Instead of feeling guilty for not doing everything at once, you learn to appreciate the small victories. 5 minutes is better than nothing, and that's something worth celebrating. The science behind it. You might be wondering, does science support this rule? Actually, yes, psychologists have studied the impact of small goals on motivation. One principle at play here is called the 𝐄𝐦𝐩𝐸 effect. This is the tendency for our brains to remember unfinished tasks. So when you start something, even just for 5 minutes, your brain is more likely to want to finish it. You've activated a mental, unfinished business loop that drives you to keep going. Plus, there's something called activation energy in psychology. Essentially, the more energy you put into starting a task, the less energy it takes to keep going. This means that once you get started, even if it's just for 5 minutes, you'll build the energy to continue without feeling drained. Practical tips to use the 5-minute rule. Here's the thing, knowing about the 5-minute rule is one thing, but actually using it is another. So, how do you make this work for you? Let me give you some tips to maximize it. 1. Set a timer. One of the best ways to stick to the 5-minute rule is by setting a timer. Commit to just 5 minutes and let the timer do the work. No distractions, no second-guessing. Focus only on the task at hand. 2. Pick a task you've been avoiding. It could be something as simple as replying to an email, cleaning your room, or doing a short workout. The key is to pick something that's been on your to-do list for a while. 3. Pair it with something enjoyable. Sometimes, pairing a difficult task with something enjoyable makes it easier to tackle. For example, listen to your favorite music while studying for 5 minutes, or watch a quick episode of a show after you finish your 5-minute task. This can make it less painful to get started. 4. Celebrate small wins. After you complete your 5 minutes, give yourself some credit. Whether you decide to keep going or take a break, acknowledging that you've made progress boosts your motivation for next time. 5. Use it for any goal. Whether it's personal development, schoolwork, or health, the 5-minute rule can be applied to anything. Want to improve your fitness? Commit to just 5 minutes of exercise a day. Want to read more? Spend 5 minutes reading a book. Overcoming challenges. Now, I know what you're thinking, but what if I can't even get through those 5 minutes? Honestly, that's okay. Sometimes, even the smallest task feels huge, and that's normal. What's important is that you don't give up. If you're struggling to get started, try breaking it down even further. Can you start with just 1 minute, or maybe even 30 seconds? The point is to lower the barrier to entry so much that it becomes ridiculously easy to get going. Remember, no progress is too small. The 5-minute rule isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. You're building habits, one small action at a time. Conclusion. To wrap up, the 5-minute rule isn't some magical solution that's going to make you instantly productive, but it's a powerful tool that can help you break through procrastination and make progress, even when you're feeling stuck. So, next time you find yourself avoiding something, remember this: it only takes 5 minutes to get started. That's it. 5 minutes is all you need to shift your mindset, create momentum, and make progress toward your goals. The key is not waiting for the perfect time or perfect conditions. Just commit to those first 5 minutes. Because trust me, once you start, you'll want to keep going. So, are you ready to give the 5-minute rule a try? Start now and watch how small steps can lead to big results. Call to action. Before you go, if you found this tip helpful and you're ready to start taking small steps toward your goals, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Don't miss out on more tips, motivation, and strategies to level up your life. Join the community and let's crush those goals together, one small win at a time. And hey, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and drop a comment below telling me how you plan to use the 5-minute rule in your own life. I'd love to hear about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.